the lights, it's time for the show to begin. It's the Stars and Stripes throwback season, and the playoffs are ready to fire off for their first race of the round of 12 here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sam Dyer. As we are getting ourselves prepared for a great event, it is the Next Level Racing 200 here at Charlotte Motor Speedway to start off the playoffs for the Stars and Stripes Season 6. And it certainly is a good one. We've got plenty of drivers getting ready with qualifying underway. And joining me for this long show, it's going to be Zach Hall. Zach, Charlotte certainly cannot wait for it. We were talking about it, this track. It's beautiful, it's pretty, but man, I'm ready for the show it's about to bring us.
I'm definitely ready for that show, Sam. It's going to be excellent, man. Start of the playoffs here for season number 6 here, and it's going to be all on the line here for these drivers going into this race, because they know it starts here tonight. If they want a chance to go race for a championship, everything resets for those top 12 drivers. Now, there is bonus points to factor in that have separated those drivers a good portion a bit, but still, looking into it, there's a ton of opportunity for all these drivers to move on to that next round with these first 2 races here and get into that round of 8.
The round of 8 going to be a crucial one, but to get to that destination, you first have to go through 2 tracks, counting tonight at Charlotte and as well going to be at Richmond next week. That will cut off to see who will move on to the round of 8. And currently, the 4 drivers that are outside looking in coming into tonight going to be the 15 of Christopher Wade, the 17 of Dylan Grimm, the 8 of Jason Gratton, and the 1 of Nate Lynch. All going to have to have some spectacular runs. And gotta say, 2 of those 4 have made it to the Final Four in past seasons. Can tonight be the marching points to where they need to be? Because we look at the board, it's starting to fill up as we're past halfway in qualifying. Nate Lynch is up there in second, which is exactly where he needs to be performing.
Huge moment for him there. Like you said, came in here 12th in points, and he's going to need a big night as it's 5 points separating him to Kyle Bowling in the 8th position in points. And starting off the night in that 2nd position, if he can hold on to it, would be a valuable opportunity for Nate Lynch, and even a past winner here at season 2 for Stars and Stripes in this at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. So we could see Nate Lynch try to go out there and get his 2nd victory in his career here at Stars and Stripes at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. So we'll see if he can back that up. But right now, watching Andrew Medlin here is it's 14th on the first lap. Let's see where Andrew can place himself as he wrecks out of turn 4, making a mistake, and he's not going to make it back around. Andrew not involved in the playoffs, but always a contender out there on the racetrack.
He certainly is going to be a contender to watch out for. Decently quick during practice, and with that poor qualifying run, he's going to have a long day of trying to march through the field. A driver that's trying to find some consistency in his qualifying at times in the beginning of the season. That's what we were saying. But since the halfway marker, this 10 has been on a tear of getting pole positions. And can he do it once again? It's Joshua Robinson starting off his first lap.
He was one of our Final Four contenders last season. Didn't come home with the championship, was fighting there to tooth and nail till the very end, and actually just coming up short to Ken Campbell. So Robinson has the experience from last season. Let's see if he can utilize that experience in these playoffs to push himself forward, because comes in here 6th to 9th in points, 5 points good to the cut line, and we'll see what his lap times can produce here in this 10 machine. We've seen him be quick, like Sam was saying, all season for really the last half of the season, as he's been figuring out this car more and more. But the first lap, 13th on the board, but seems like the second lap is where the speed is at. We'll see what he can produce there to place him on the grid.
He's going to have to beat the new contender of Thomas Ogle. 30.461 was Ogle's time. Joshua Robinson, here comes the speed through 3 and 4, trying to let that machine drift up as far as he can. A little bit of drifting, but runs out of time. Not enough as qualifying closes in. And once again, Zach, that's happened before where Joshua Robinson qualifies with not enough time left for that second crucial lap, and he'll have to start in the second half of the field. Man, that is a tough pill to swallow for a crucial night like it is tonight.
Snake bitten by the clock once again. He is in that 10 machine, and yeah, we've seen that before, Sam, so gonna have to fix those mistakes up for the rest of the rounds, but still in a decent starting position in 13th, right there in the mid portion of the field.
How is he going to have to work his way through? We'll find out here tonight. But let's take a look at those qualifying results. After qualifying practice, this is how tonight's event's going to start out. Thomas Ogle in the 31 going to be taking that pole award for the 31 machine. That of Ross Tatum in his first ever playoff position appearance in the Stars and Stripes going to be in second. Nate Lynch in third. Will Bussler's going to be in fourth. Fifth, Kyle Bulling. Andrew Hess going to be in 6th, 7th, Christopher Wade, Aaron Hale in 8th, 9th's going to go to Trey Jackson, and Kyle McCoy, the 3-time champ, going to be in 10th position.
Points leader coming into this first round of the playoffs, Scott Rickard will start in the 11th position. Alongside him will be the 17 of Dylan Grimm in 12th. 13th goes to Joshua Robinson, with 14th position being held by the 20 of Derek Offerman. 15th, Jason Gratton. 16th goes to Jonathan Woods. 17th for the 77 of Diego Valle. 18th will go to the 18 of Andrew Medlin, with 19th being George Kovacic. 20th going to Juan Jimenez. And our last two cars on the field in 21st and 22nd, it's Patrick Hasty and Zach Kreitz.
As that is your field starting out here tonight. 133 laps at Charlotte Motor Speedway. No stage breaks, no fast repairs, and only 3 sets of tires in pit road for the drivers to come in and take throughout the night for these 133 laps. And Zach, we've seen plenty of mile-and-a-half racing. What is so different from this mile-and-a-half from others that we've been at before?
It is very different, actually. This track has completely different character, in my opinion, than a lot of other ones. And I think that's what separates a lot of mile-and-a-halves, especially ones that have this tri-oval, such as the Charlotte Motor Speedway, where it's this cookie-cutter style racetrack. But at this surface, you got a very, very different sides of the racetrack, in my opinion. 1 and 2, much more open, much more a free-flowing corner where you can carry a little bit more speed, and the line can vary just a little bit throughout different drivers' driving styles. But down in 3 and 4, that corner's much more acute. It's much a tighter radius, and you got to really be able to get right to the bottom of that corner and be able to get in there, stay there, and get off the corner on that blue line, because if you don't, you're losing grip any higher up the racetrack. So you'll see how those two different distinct sides of this racetrack work out. But this track here in Charlotte, always known to put on a great show. Let's see how these ARCA cars attack it here in these opening laps, with Ogle being out front.
Ogle, Ross Tatum, your top 2, ready to see how they're going to be taking off initially. We've seen plenty of different strategies of protecting your tires or being willing to be aggressive. What strategies are we going to find out here in the early portions of this race? Because this is going to be a big, tall tale. These first 40 laps going to be so crucial if we stay green on who's going to be the top contenders to watch out for throughout this evening. But pace car is off. The playoffs about to begin. The Next Level Racing 200 is underway with Ross Tatum, Thomas Ogle roaring down into turn number 1.
And it's actually a better start from the outside group of Ross Tatum here, as they're going to be dead even heading down into turn number 1. Can Tatum make the top side work here off of 2? But I don't think it's going to work, because Ogle going to clear for that lead position.
That blue line going to be so important. Who is going to be able to protect the inside lane for the early portions of this race? And Thomas Ogle going to be one of those drivers. Starting from pit road, going to be the 4 machine of Patrick Hasty, who's back racing. He's been gone for a while. Going to see the 4 out there. But lap number 1, give it to Thomas Ogle in the 31 machine. His drivers already single file out, and this is the strategy. Who's willing to be aggressive? Who's settling in, as the first side-by-side battle is going to be back for that of 6th place.
Back there around that 6th position, you got Christopher Wade, Andrew Hess already duking it out, like you said there, Sam. And we've seen the 5 machine of Andrew Hess all season long be one of the best cars on the mile-and-a-half when it comes to longer runs. Right now, giving up a few spots in that 5 machine to that 15, and it now looks like the 40 Aaron Hill trying to follow that 15 through a Christopher Wade. And right now, this 5 machine drop it back, but we've seen him march back through the field multiple times. But it's still going to be tough here with how this race may play out.
And for that, Andrew Hess, he's missed out these last 2 weeks from racing the Stars and Stripes. He already was kind of locked in with his win in the enough points that 5 had. The question is, was that time away from running the ARCA car going to influence him in any way here tonight? Granted, these great shots. Is Rocky Murray Jr. going to be a producer this evening as we're looking through the field and getting to see the drivers get as close as they can to that blue line?
Trying to get close to the blue line for sure there as Andrew Hess looks back to the 28 of Kyle McCoy making a pass on the 17 of Dylan Grimm there. And it's going to be fun to see how Andrew Hess comes back from this. Like you said, he missed those 2 weeks. In my opinion, as a driver myself, that can either do two things. It's either going to be he's a little bit rusty here tonight, or he's going to come back with new motivation. Sometimes things get stagnant out there, and you kind of just are in the motion. And when you get a couple weeks off, sometimes you can realize how much you miss something and how much you enjoy it, and it makes you just perform that much more better. So there's two ways this can go. We'll see how it works out for Andrew Hess, as now he's under attack with the 28 of Kyle McCoy looking to the inside.
28 of Kyle McCoy, last driver win at this track. It was back in season 4, over a year ago. The Stars and Stripes ran out of Charlotte in 28, hoping to find a little bit of magic as he led most laps, got the pole, and won in season 4. And that was back when they were driving in that Gen 4 Cup car. So very different from the Gen 6, Cup car, as they're running in that of the ARCA machines here this evening.
Very, very different, but we're having trouble farther back off of 2. It's contact between the 8 of Grattan and the 77 of Diego Valle. I think Valle is going to catch a little bit of right front damage off the nose of the 77 machines. You're going to see off of 4. You can see that damage on that right front fender as that front tire sticks out. It's just a little bit loose for the 8 off of 2. Washes up into the 77, and that Diego Valle car having to hold on here with damage now battling Juan Jimenez.
Juan Jimenez, good to see the 48 back racing, but this 77 is right on board, getting a sense of what it's like for Diego Valle with that front end damage that he's dealing with. Again, it's on the front right that he's dealing with that damage. And Zach, simple mistakes, playoff drivers getting into one another, and for that of Diego Valle, one of our 3 drivers coming into tonight with their first ever playoff appearance in Stars and Stripes. Certainly an awakening for the 77, as our other first-time driver, it's the 21 Ross Tatum, battling for the lead now.
Ross Tatum, he looked fast in practice, and he's starting to show that speed here right now as he's got the help of Will Bustler and the 6 behind him here to try to push him past this 31 of Ogle. He's already done that. It's going to be the top 2 clear in front of Ogle, and now Christopher Wade here making a run and a charge up here to the front on 1.5 miles that, personally, Wade's kind of disappeared through the mid-portion part of the season. Had a great start to his season, but just kind of didn't have the greatest mid-part. Right now, having a great start to his night here in the 15 team.
I was looking at the stats, though, for this 15 this season, and it's been the 1.5 miles, so where he's been running a lot more consistent, that of the 15 of Christopher Wade. So I had in my notes more of he might have to bank on a good 1.5 mile run to move on to the next round, and that's exactly what he's showing right now. We're currently in 3rd place as we look at the gaggle of cars in 7th and 8th that are battling around one another.
Got Grimm here trying to take that 8th position from Offerman, who's trying to go to the outside of Nate Lynch there in the 7th position. So multiple grooves working right now, and you can drive it in hard, make that outer groove work, but how much will the tires have to pay a price? We'll have to question that, because Offerman right now really sending it up on that top side as he does finally clear Lynch to get that 7th position. But how much damage will that be doing to the tires? And now Grimm, he's going to look to the inside of the 1 machine here and try to get past Nate Lynch, who is right now a little bit in free fall after starting 3rd, but I think this could be a little bit of tire saving.
Could be a little bit of tire saving, but we've seen this in the last couple of weeks where Nate Lynch will qualify well, be up front, and then he'll dwindle down the field, and he struggles to gain all those positions back. This is one of the concerns I'm having for the 1, and we just really don't know what type of run he's going to have here tonight.
It has been a up and down type of season for him, especially with the way he started races and when it came to finishing them. So we'll see if that works out for him, but right now dropping back definitely. But it's Wade here in the 15. He's still trying to get more spots. He's trying to drive up the 3rd after Aaron Hell's pushed himself up into the 2nd position, as it looks like Wade is having a little bit of network issues and disappearing for us there a few times, but he comes back there as now he's going to clear that 6 and try to put maybe a maneuver on this 40 up ahead of him.
It is Aaron Hill maybe being too aggressive, up 6 positions for himself so far here tonight. Christopher Wade only up 4 spots as battling for 2nd place, but behind them, biggest mover so far, it's the 20, and you see him on the outside. That's Derek Offerman, who found himself getting the pole back in season 1 in these ARCA cars. That was almost 2 years ago for the 20 machine, but he certainly has had some speed, and it's good to see Derek finally have a run where he's competing up front in our top 5.
It is great to see this for him. Definitely looking to get back to those ways and battling up towards the front half of the field and on the move, as they would say right now, for sure for him. But again, this outer groove, I do have concerns with his, the 6 there, almost closing the door last second on him and almost putting the 20 up into the wall, as now it's going to be Ogle looking to his inside. But again, how long can Offerman hold on with this gain of 9 positions? I do not think this is sustainable, as now he's going to have a train of cars looking to line up to go to his inside.
And it's 4 very strong vehicles that are sitting in wait to make the pass. First one to make that pass going to be the 31 of Thomas Ogle. Then you got Kyle McCoy, as well as Dylan Grimm and Scott Rickard. Dylan Grimm trying for the 17, go with an opposite approach of qualifying in the middle of the field and trying to keep his way moving forward is the 17. But Kyle McCoy, 3-time champ, certainly a driver who knows how to get things done after missing the minimum amount of starts you need to automatically advance with a win. And point his way in the hard way, did so, and now is able to run for a championship this season, where I gotta say the 28, one of the major hot favorites to make it to the final 4, and as well the 32, Scott Rickard, was trying to follow in the tire tracks. The 20 is another one of those drivers, as a lot of people having to check up because of the 6 machine of Will Bustler struggling off the exit 2.
Big check up there down that back straightaway, as I think the 31 of Ogle was looking to get to the outside of the 6 and got into the bumper of that 6, and somehow they hold on to it, but it has shuffled them back here now with 32 of Rickard taking advantage of this, getting around the 6 and the 31, is now he's getting a little bit stuck behind the 20. He may have a chance and opportunity to make it 3 wide, but clears to 6, and now he's going to have to look to get past him. This is what I wanted to see here tonight, Sam, is how does this 32 respond? Because, it's just been one of those seasons where it started off like he was unstoppable, and up to this point, I don't even know if I can look at him as the favorite coming into these playoffs, just because, it just has been lackluster, in my opinion, in this second half of the season.
Man, it's giving me flashbacks to season 3 for this 32, where he was looking like the heavy favorite for the first 5 races of the season, and then started to trail off. Other drivers started to get the feel of how that, at the time, was the Xfinity car, got the feeling of how to drive that machine, and they just seemed like other drivers were able to step up in that clutch factor once the playoffs came around. And Kyle McCoy almost swept the whole entire playoffs, winning 4 out of 5 races and getting his 2nd championship, as Scott Rickard just needing a good run, I would say, especially on the fact of, like I said, he's kind of been under the shadow, you could say, and underneath a lot of the radar, but certainly is always a threat when you come to these mile and a halves.
Was a threat, I feel like, at every track for sure, and certainly these mile and a halves he's shown this season. But looking at, in my opinion, right now, one of the hottest drivers on this year in the series here is this 24 Kyle Bowling. He really had a great run down to the end of the regular season and had some great finishes to place himself inside those playoffs firmly. And now here tonight, once again, not the greatest qualifying spot we've seen continuously from this 24, but he's been able to race his way through a lot of these races. We'll see if he can get his way back up, because he's gave up 7 positions from starting 5th.
24 of Kyle Bowling into this playoffs, going to be his 5th appearance making playoffs for his Stars and Stripes career. And I would say for the 24, certainly a driver that we always talk about consistency, I would say, Zach. But yeah, the fact that he has been a lot more of a threat recently, gotta be a scare, as we're seeing stacked side by side, 3 rows deep, and it's all being really the X's valve. The 20 and the 6 really holding off Kyle McCoy and the rest of the field that wants to take off.
This 20 is definitely the bottleneck in this little bit of the run here, as Bustler will make the pass on Offerman. Now it's going to be Kyle McCoy diving to the inside. He luckily finds the slot to get down below the 20 and now make his maneuver to push him up into the 6th position. And Offerman with, gaining up to 9 positions, now only 7. I think quickly he's going to be going backwards here with a hungry group of drivers right behind him, because this 20, I think that right front tire has left the building for him.
It was fun to see you up here, Derek, but let's just hope that you don't get caught up in a mess, as those tires are going to cool off at some point. The longer it stays on the outside, the more and more that tire is just going to continue to just fall away. which is worth 23 laps in. Still Ross Tatum leading the charge up front. See a little bit of action for second place as we're riding on the back of the 28 machine. Good shots of everyone trying to make their way forward as, on the back of the 31 of Thomas Ogle. And Ogle kind of in a sandwich at this moment. He's got a driver side by side in front of him and behind.
That pole setter Ogle trying to make his climb back through, and with that incident between him and Will Muscle, that really lost him a ton of time and a ton of positions there that he's going to have to climb back. And we've seen the 31's been one of the best cars all season long when it comes to the longer run. We'll see how he works that out. But look at this. It's Nate Lynch trying to maybe get himself back farther forward as he's gotten passed by Jimenez, who started in the 20th position. Can Nate Lynch break back into the top 10 here and even get past Derek Hoffman to get the 9th?
Starting to get a little bit more scary on how these drivers are on top of one another. Tire wear, always a factor, especially when we've had 25 laps in. You had the 20 that was pushing so aggressively. Now having drivers behind him, 3 drivers that all decided as a group, we're just falling back. That of Nate Lynch, Kyle Bowling, as well as Andrew Hess, just waiting for this time to finally pounce and move forward. And I think they finally got in that ring. It's time to go. They're still not even make any moves, but maybe moving up to that a third, it's Scott Rickard after he's gotten by that Derek Offerman just that of 8 laps ago.
This is a great sight to see for him entering the first race of the playoffs with some speed underneath that 32, especially 26 laps in a run. I don't think speed has been his problem. I think it's been the longevity of keeping the tires together for the 32 for majority of the second half of the season that he's had trouble with. But it seems like tonight it's working well because he's really had to work his way through up 8 spots from that 11th starting position and close it in quickly to this 40 machine. But he can't look too far behind because that driver that came in second to points to him, he's closed in on Christopher Wade in the 4th position, and that's Kyle McCoy in the 28.
Kyle McCoy is running just as fast. That last time by, fastest car on track. Kyle McCoy, second fastest, was Thomas Ogle in 6th, right behind that 28 machine. So Scott Rickard needs to make these passes quick, efficient, and not use up more tires than is needed as he is trying his way to go forward as much as he can. And also an update on Diego Valle. More issues for the 77. He is now fallen down to 21st position. It has been a mess for that driver and other messes that are going on. Middle of the field seems to be having those connection issues, Zach. More drivers seem to be having them here tonight.
It is weird, Sam, because I've seen multiple, at least 3 or 4 drivers who've had this, connection issue that we've seen here. And yeah, that could be something plaguing those drivers. Maybe those drivers are in similar areas of, regions of the country, and they could possibly be dealing with weather. But, it's always scary when you see that blinking going on for multiple different drivers out there. As it does look like Scott Rickard has finally got that pass done for second. We'll see if he can make any headway on Ross Tatum. Was about 100 to 200ths faster that last time by than the 21 and has about a 1.1 second gap. But I think he's going to have to, more than anything, focus on just making clean, consistent laps because there's a definite fast group of drivers coming from behind Kyle McCoy and Thomas Ogle.
The drivers that were waiting for this moment for the true transition of who's got the long run pace has made the switch. It's Kyle McCoy trying to catch up. As we look at the distance and the difference on time, you can see Scott Rickard is for sure catching up to Ross Tatum, but will he catch up in time? The gap is 1.1 seconds and will continue to dwindle down at this rate that we've been seeing. But Zach, the question is, will Scott Rickard catch up to Ross Tatum by the time that he wants to get ahead, or will Kyle McCoy catch up to Scott Rickard? Because those two drivers, it seems to be a ping-pong match on who could catch up to a leader faster. At this time, it is Ross Tatum that last time able to equalize for a lap. So that's good for the 21 at least, as we continue to stay green, as 31 laps are in the books out of 133. And the question now turns into, Zach, as we've kind of passed the halfway marker when we're expecting pit stops. When do you think about coming into pit road, especially on a track that seems like clean air might be the advantage here?
Well, Sam, I was just thinking about what strategy would be played here, and I'm thinking around 45 is when that window is going to open up for a 2-stop strategy here tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. So looking to stop at lap 45, then one more time at lap 90 to take it to the end of this race and kind of split this race up into thirds. So we'll see when they elect to do it, but I think we're only about 10 to 15 laps away from pit road getting very, very busy.
Very busy. We will be seeing it become as we're seeing the driver single filing out in this shot. Seeing the 6 of Will Bustler qualified in 4th position. Now with Nate Lynch, Carol Bowling, as well as Andrew Hess, they've been able to move forward after getting by Derek Offerman, who has fallen back to where he qualified. A great early surge by the 20, but really for nothing. But it's Nate Lynch, Carol Bowling, Andrew Hess. This trio, how well and efficient are they going to be able to move forward? Because they gave up the most time out of anyone in the field from the start of the from the start of the race to now. And Zach, they are not moving forward as efficiently as you would expect for the amount of time that they gave up.
Yeah, you would expect a little bit more out of them possibly. So we'll have to see how that trio of the 1, the 24, and the 5 do. But there's drivers ahead of them that are making spots up, and that's right there, that 17 Dylan Grimm. But the other one that's making up the most spots is the 48 of Juan Jimenez. It's been a while since we've seen this speed from the 48. He's had a few tough weeks out there, but now showing that speed that he had right when he first came into the series.
When he first came into the series, it was at 1.5 miles, and 48 really kind of was shocking us with his debut race. Didn't qualify well, but was willing to march his way through the field, and that's exactly what he's doing. The 48 machine going to be putting the heavy pressure on Christopher Wade, dipping his nose down low, and will take that position for the 48 machine. 7 for Juan Jimenez. He's done a great job, up 13 positions, and he is one of the few drivers that was aggressive early on and has kept his tires underneath him. This is a great run for the 48, and maybe some magic that other drivers, maybe playoff drivers, wish that they could find as the battle for third is underway. It's going to be that of the 32, Scott Ricker, Kyle McCoy, and it's McCoy who has caught Scott Ricker, but it's Thomas Ogle with the better overall speed, making the pass for 4th, and might be setting up for 3rd shortly.
Ogle once again showing that he just somehow has the knack to have the speed at the ends of runs, and he's able to get a nice clean pass there on Kyle McCoy, and now set his sights on Scott Rickard, who has been overtaken by, Aaron Hill. We got to give Aaron Hill credit. I mean, he drove up here 6 positions from where he started, and, the 32 caught him, passed him, then he passed him back, and really the last couple laps, Aaron Hill's been either matching or being a little bit quicker than Ross Tatum, our leader. So Aaron Hill having quite the showing here in this opening race of these playoffs. This 40 definitely showing that what he could have possibly done if he made it.
And as we're running on board the 40 machine, and also earlier when we were seeing drivers on what their steering wheels look like, you see in the corners, it's that orange line, usually known for where the center point of where your steering wheel is, a little bit offset, moved over to the left, and then straight when they're trying to turn a little bit to the left. Aaron Hill went a little bit more aggressive into the corner, trying to keep the speed up, 40 through 3 and 4. But Zach, you could touch on that a little bit more on why the steering wheel is a little bit off center.
Yeah, we offset that wheel on purpose. We want these cars to turn left. I mean, we're taking 2 left-hand turns around this 1.5 mile bank oval here in Charlotte at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And when you put that offset in the car, you'll see down the straightaways they're turning right, because that car, if you were to have the steering wheel straight, wouldn't be automatically turning left. And that's why you see in the corner, they don't have too much wheel actually inputted into the car. I mean, a lot of other cars that you run much straighter with the offset, you will actually turn the wheel quite a bit more in the center, especially at the corner. And right here, you can see these guys not really ever getting past 11 to 10 o'clock. So it's showing right here that they are turning well, and that's due to that offset there, making that car want to go to the left.
Making them turn, making them turn left, exactly where they need to go. And behind this 31 machine, he's got a great show. That's going to be Dylan Grimm, putting the pressure on Kyle McCoy. McCoy, at one moment, Zach, I was saying, he might have been the driver to watch out for to try to catch our leader, or at least make the pass for second. I'm eating those words now, because the 28 has been put on a blender currently. Now being pressured to almost lose his 3rd position.
Well, what's the most impressive thing? All these drivers in this group right here, all of them that last time by were quicker than our leader, Ross Tatum. So we'll see if this battle in here continues, how much time can they gain. But right now, all these drivers stacked up, running pretty similar times to that leader up front. So McCoy, I had the same feelings when I saw the 28 coming through. I was like, this is looking like one of those Kyle McCoy classic races. But it seems like maybe the tires just hit that plateau that he just hasn't been able to figure out. And right here, early stop, lap 42 for the 24 team of Kyle Bowling, going with the major undercut.
One Kyle to another. Kyle Bowling's going to be the first driver to hit pit road here tonight. And an early stop from what our window was kind of expecting. Maybe thought lap 45, maybe 48 was going to be the expected times for drivers to hit pit road. Instead, Kyle Bowling going with the extreme undercut. And he's going to take 4 tires and fuel and is underway. Caught with no penalties on entry or exit. And now the 24, with how early he came into pit road, got to be banking that this race stays green.
He really does. He wants this thing to play out where he can gain under this, green flag stop situation and gain a ton of track position because, he was part of that trio of Andrew Hess, Nate Lynch, and himself and the 24 Kyle Bowling there. That saved all those tires and lost a ton of position for when they qualified. Never really made them up. I mean, Andrew Hess still sitting back in 10th, Nate Lynch now in 12th. They're only 3 seconds off the lead back to Nate Lynch, but still, they have got a ton of cars to pass if they want to go up there and battle for this. It just shows you how close and competitive this field is here, as it looks like Ogle's had an issue as now the 28 of McCoy's got back to his outside.
Well, drivers over the radio, very active. Pit road about to be very much utilized this lap. As here comes some top contenders. Scott Rickard, going to be Thomas Ogle, Andrew Hess, as well as Jason Braden, all coming into pit road. And they were saying over the radio, right when they hit the backstretch, all coming into pit road. And here comes another cluster of drivers expected to hit pit road. Derek Offerman, also Kyle McCoy, saying they're coming into pit road this time by.
It's getting busy here right around lap 45, and I felt like this was that perfect region to hit pit road, and seems like these drivers are feeling like that is the case. And, Kyle McCoy coming down, Scott Rickard, Thomas Ogle, all those drivers making the pit stop on 45. I wonder when Ross Tatum is going to bite here, because the last few times by, Ross Tatum has been struggling in the 21, and the 40 Aaron Hill has been gaining a considerable amount of time. It's only down to 0.7 of a second separating our top 2. Ross Tatum cannot wait too long, because right now in this phase of the run, personally, he's struggling a little bit.
And each lap that goes on by, our leader is going to be losing about 1.5 seconds to all those that just come into pit road. And Ross Tatum, he wasn't waiting for very long, just going to give up 2 laps to Scott Rickard and others that pitted earlier. And now it's Aaron Hale staying out for another lap. Juan Jimenez, Nate Lynch also staying out. We're still waiting for our top 7 needing to come into pit road. You see Andrew Medlin go. He's hoping for his race to change up. This has not been the Andrew Medlin type of a race, as you get to see the Medlin cam here tonight. Turning the wheel, marching his own way, back in 5th place. Qualifying didn't go strongly, and currently right now tonight, Zach, that 18 looks like a handful right now.
He really does look like he's got a handful, Sam. It's just not played out the way I think this 18 was hoping it would. Yeah, at the moment he is up 14 positions, but he's still yet to pit. So we'll see where he comes out when he does get the pit road. But, taking it long here, you never know. With the cycle of pit stops here, people in different strategies and different speeds, there's always possibilities of mistakes to be made in traffic when passing slower cars, such as Kyle Bowling did there to Andrew Medlin. And we could get that yellow that could bail out somebody like Andrew Medlin, Trey Jackson, Nate Lynch, George Kovacic that have stayed out so far.
And there almost was a yellow one. There was almost contact. Kyle Bowling almost running into the rear end of Zach Kreitz as Kreitz went into pit road. The 9 obliterating his front bumper as he ran into the water barrels at pit entry. The same spot we saw that of Andrew Medlin do under qualifying, but he was doing a very aggressive pit road stop, and it went terribly for the 9, and that could be a race-ending incident for himself. Required damage, and you can see there the remains of Zach Kreitz.
I definitely feel like that's racing, and that front end's gone. No fast repairs here at Stars and Stripes when it comes to the 1.5 mile tracks. So not going to be able to get that fixed as now it's going to be the 24 Kyle Bowling unlapping himself here as that first car to hit pit road. And look, he's already got Scott Ricker right behind him. Ricker did a great job in that phase to get pretty far out ahead of the other group of pitters.
Also, got to give credit to Kyle Bowling, just showing the difference in pace. He pitted 3 laps sooner than everyone else and was ahead of the drivers that were going to be what we're expecting to be the leaders. So great job on the 4. See, Patrick Hastings started on pit road for this race, kind of expected there to be a caution. Caution never came, and now the 4 is running in 5th place. But when this cycle goes through, going to be in heavy danger of going a lap down, but it's always great to see the 4 out there on track as Patrick's having his own successful race by just make it to the end of the night.
Yeah, sometimes that's how it is out there. You just got to make those laps and see what result you can come back with out there. And 52 laps into this race, it's already been interesting up to this point with Ross Tatum being on a lead majority of the opening laps there in the 21. And this just kind of clicked across my brain. That 21 Ross Tatum, he needs to actually go out here and pretty much either win or get pretty much second here tonight to get enough points, because I've heard he will not be here next week for that Richmond Raceway, and we'll be missing out on that race. So that is going to affect his chances there moving on to the next round if he does not go out there and get a win tonight.
Also, I completely blanked on that, and the fact that he did say that statement last week that he wasn't going to miss Richmond. So yeah, you're right. This is very important for the 21, who is now fallen back to 12th place. But we're looking at just the drivers that have already pitted, and be around 6 or 7 for Zach, for that of Ross Tatum, as Zach Kreitz officially has called it a night. He has disconnected, and that's tough night for the 9, who was trying just to run for a good top 15 finish, but that will not be the case as front runners trying to hold steady. Nate Lynch, oh boy, all these drivers trying to unlap themselves and almost making contact with the 1.
Close action there between this group as they're trying to get by, like you said, and unlap themselves and also make speed to where they don't have to lose any time to the drivers that have pitted on their cycle. And with this interesting factor playing out here with Hasty not pitting, Kovacic, Jackson, Medlin, and Lynch, doing the math, they would need to do 67 laps on 1 tank of fuel if they want to make this race a 1-stop. I don't see that being doable. I mean, I've seen crazier things. I definitely have, but I just don't see that being a factor here tonight, that 1-stop. I think right now all these drivers stretching as far as they can right here to see if they can catch that lucky yellow and put themselves in a much better position, especially with not having pit yet. They'll be a no-brainer to come down pit road.
Well, one of those not going to be able to make it. That's Trey Jackson hits pit road for the 25 as he's about to be leaving pit road. 3 drivers yet to come in. It's Nate Lynch, Andrew Medlin, George Kovacic, actually 4, as Patrick Hastings still needs to go into pit road as well. As for Nate Lynch, Zach, this one comes in as one of our playoff contenders. He's technically last of all the playoff drivers with the way that the bonus points for winning races and where your standings were at the end of the regular season lied. The 1 got placed 12th out of our 12 drivers that made the playoffs, and as a driver that's making his 3rd playoff appearance, obviously he needs to try something different, but I'm surprised he's being this off, this different of a strategy of aiming for a 1-stop, because he's still got to go 10 more laps.
It is very questionable in my opinion. I think if you're a non-playoff guy, this would be a strategy to try to play. But being a playoff driver coming in here 12th, only 5 points out from that cut line, I think if you're the 1, you just need to have a good solid night, and try to make it even closer or push yourself above that cut line going into next week at Richmond. So I think with this strategy, he has pretty much put himself in a boat of where he has to now run this dry and try to catch any little bit of yellow he can get, or stretch the fuel to the distance where he can make the 1-stop work. But again, I just don't see that being possible. We'll just have to see what this 1 has up his sleeve. As we look back here to Scott Ricker, this would be the driver when everything cycles through. This will be the leader, and you'll see the 28 Kyle McCoy there. He'd be the 2nd place driver battling for the lead.
It makes sense that it'd be the 2 drivers that have won championships being 1-2, and Kyle McCoy having the slight advantage of having 1 lap pitted later. than Scott Rickard. And 28 needed an extra lap, but this is where the chaos is reigning. Currently, 9th place position. Andrew Hess and Juan Jimenez battling side by side with one another. And Ross Tatum, who has some of the freshest tires of everyone here and went with the gutsy call of decided to stay out later, lost a lot of time. And Zach right now trapped, willing to be aggressive as 21 has to be if he wants to try to get into victory lane.
He has got to be aggressive. That's no doubt, Sam. He's got to try to make up these spots. And, I mean, he's now even behind Jimenez, who has the same tires as him. And Jimenez drove from the 20th starting position. It's going to be tough to beat that 48, I think. That 48 is the driver to watch out for with how far he came back and how late he pitted there. He's got fresher tires than all the drivers ahead of him. This could look good for Jimenez to go out there and possibly get a victory himself. But Ross Tatum needs to latch onto that 48 Lowe's machine and try to drag himself with them because, again, missing next week at Richmond, this is almost a must-win.
And I'm trying to figure out what exactly happened to that Scott Rickard because his outlap was so much longer than everyone else's, and I'm curious if maybe he was held up at some moment because he has lost so much more time. And I was expecting him to lose compared to the drivers that he's around, but at least he's in the thick of things. So if a caution comes out, 21 not completely out of this, as again, he is going to be missing next week's race. Nate Lynch, he still has a lead of 12 seconds over Scott Rickard, and really that's the driver that you're aiming for. Stay out in front of the 32 until you have to come into pit road. And Zach, he's looking poised that he might be able to do so.
It's looking possible. I mean, we saw him dropping back early in the first portion of that, first run. I mean, qualified well and, in the third position and dropped back pretty fast. Was that a fuel saving strategy? Was it early fuel saving there, lifting and coasting into the corners and trying to save as much of that fuel available to him to try to stretch this distance out because he's getting closer and closer each and every lap. Again, 67 laps is what he'd need to do on this first run. Then that second run, he'd only need to do 66, so it'd be one less lap, and that would, if he can get to 67, he's going to be in a great position to get it done.
Exactly where he needs to aim for, as the driver of Scott Rickard has been able to get by Andrew Medlin, because Medlin hits pit road for the 18. And there are only just 2 drivers left that have yet to pit. That's George Kovacic, Nate Lynch, 3, as well as that's Patrick Hastings back in 17th position. 3 drivers still needing to come into pit road, and another lap ticked off. Nate Lynch just needs to go another 2 more laps, and he will be eligible to go for the 1 stop as he still has an 8-second gap lead over Scott Rickard. The numbers look right. If he's able to stay ahead of the 32, this strategy is going to be impeccable to watch as we ride on board to get a sense of what strategy he's going for the fuel saving.
We'll see if he can do it. And, I mean, he's pretty much just clutching and coasting through the corners. And I like this strategy. I mean, right now it's 7.5 seconds. Yet each and every lap he's losing about 1.5 seconds or so to the drivers behind him. But at the same time, he's about to come down here and get fresh tires on this car and run about 1.5 seconds faster than that group. So it's going to start to even itself back out. This, if Nate Lynch stretches this another lap, he's going to be in the position to go out here and win this race possibly.
Nate Lynch, he's done the miracle. He's heading into pit road. Now don't have any mistakes. Don't speed in your box and make your positioning perfect as the one gingerly makes his way into his pit stall. Scott Rickard, Kyle McCoy take off as they're battling for the lead. But is it even worth the aggression as they're getting by Diego Valle, who goes a lap down for the 77. He's going to be the first car a lap down. He's needing a caution flag to come out to get himself back on the lead lap at this point. Speech is not there as Andrew Medlin blasting on by, trying to unlap himself with fresher tires. So it's the ever-evolving dance of drivers swapping back and forth as Medlin expected to try to go for the outside here on Scott Rickard as Rickard actually gives up the bottom. Here comes the 18, unlapping himself, and the 1 getting out of pit road.
The 1 on Lynch there at leaving out of pit road. Hopefully no mistakes for him because made it 66 laps. That means he will need to make it 67 on this next time around. But the way I look at that also, he did not have a pace lap or a grid lap to, burn that little bit of extra fuel not to allow him to do that lap. So he will have one less technical lap to do than what he did before. I think it could still be possible for that one to get done. He's just probably going to have to fuel save a ton, especially because now he may not be even in anybody's draft because of how fast he'll be. That's going to be a huge factor also. But right here, here's the 28. McCoy with the big run down the back straightaway. I think it's inevitable. This 28 is going to look for the lead.
Yeah, McCoy, that first run looked like he was going to make his usual heroic charge through the field, lets off and then takes off. But here tonight, had to do a pit stop first in between. He has the chance to take the lead. Scott Rickard just holding his line defensively on the outside lane, trying to get these major runs so the straightaways can keep that position. But the 28, all he needs to do is just keep it side by side when they enter turn 3, and he's right there, drag stripping down into turn number 3, and Kyle McCoy hits his mark, stays low, hits the middle lane, trying to clear, but Zach will finally almost get fully clear out of turn number 4.
He tried everything to clear there, and he just will as they cross the start-finish line. Great job by the 28, because he needed to do that because they are going to have their hands full here in the next few laps. That 48 machine of Juan Jimenez is immensely fast, and he is closing in ever so quickly here onto the back of this group here leading this field. This 48 machine, he came to play here tonight, and I don't know if he got the Jimmy Johnson buff here at Charlotte or what, because it is working well for him.
He is moving his way forward and also tagging along, going to be the 21 of Ross Tatum, Dylan Grimm, also in the mix, closing in. But we have to step aside. When we come back, we will take you to the end of this race. These drivers, certainly, this group still has one more pit stop to take us to the end, but we will be back in just a few moments. You won't miss the things. We go side by side as it's playoff racing action here for the Stars and Stripes throwback season. We'll be back in just a few moments.
The best, you got them for a rest. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
He's following, they're wrecking, they're splitting, and it's a complete mayhem.
We have a wreck at the front. 19 goes down into the 7, takes out the double zero.
They're 5 wide behind for fifth. Oh my, the 5 wide here, this ain't gonna work, is it? They're already wrecking into turn 1, and now coming through that at turn 2. This is it, the Daytona. Oh no, they're wrecking contact. Sets gets into the wall. Gonna be scattering on the outside. Drivers on the apron. Drivers coming out of nowhere. Edison on the outside trying to get the win. And it's William Edison stealing it at the line.
Into the wall. The 18 trying to block. 77 get into the 18. That leaves 3 of TJ Roberts. 17 to Gavin Rogers. 3 of TJ Roberts is gonna steal the win here.
He went second fiddle so many times last season. Christopher Wade wins the season 5 Daytona 200.
I think I watched Josh 3 or 4 times before I ran the car. He killed them every race, and it was like stout fields, like good cars, big races, and I mean, he was unbeatable. And I was like, oh man, this is, like, I'm nervous. I was so nervous getting into the car full time this year after watching Josh win 3 or 4 races straight. These cars, they have a lot of horsepower now. They have over 500, and I think 5 years ago they didn't have 450. They're gonna be a handful to drive, but just don't overdrive them. Let the car do the work.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Stars and Stripes Throwback Season. We have been watching this race 82 laps in, and we have been clean and green all the way through. Will that continue as there's multiple strategies out there to be thrown? Before we get to the coverage, as you're seeing it on screen, big shout out to the sponsors for that of the Stars and Stripes series. Starting off with ButtKicker, feel what you've been missing, and as well, Next Level Racing. Get your next racing rig at Next Level Racing. Big thanks to those sponsors. As Zach, it has been crazy. You touched on it right before the commercial break. Juan Jimenez was the driver to watch out for, and he made the pass while we were under commercial.
That 48 is a rocket ship here tonight. I mean, from the rear of the field, pretty much 20th to first now, all under green flag lap conditions. And I mean, he's made it look quite easy up to this point. So unless something majorly goes wrong for this 48 or Nate Lynch can get out there and save enough fuel to stay ahead of him, this 48 may be on tour for a win here, and that would be a huge story to have a non-playoff driver go out here and win the first playoff race.
It really would be impressive to see Juan Jimenez get himself into victory lane, but there's also other strategies out there. The one of Nate Lynch is the big one. He was able to stretch it practically to halfway, and the one is the only driver that can go for a one-stop here tonight. Can he make it work to get himself into victory lane with the off strategy? Because everyone else in front of the one in those top 17 have to pit at least one more time.
We'll have to see how it works out. I mean, right now, Lynch is about 26 seconds behind Jimenez. Pit stops here, you know, it's going to take upwards of around 30 to 40 seconds on pit road. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because I think at this pace that Nate Lynch is having to run, it's going to be tough for him to hold these guys back, just saving that much fuel in that race car. So we'll have to watch it all play out here before our eyes, because we've seen plenty of times before, Stars and Stripes, they're able to keep it clean and green. I would have no doubt that these drivers are going to be able to try that once again, but I think the heartbreak of this run is you see the grid order shifted up. Dylan Grimm has got up to 3rd. Ross Tatum, he's back to 6th, and he is struggling. He's actually starting to fall into the clutches of the 10. Joshua Robinson, who's starting to make an appearance up here, possibly to go for a top 5. So it is it's starting to heat up here. And Ross Tatum, after leading the majority of that first run, he's now stuck back here with, taking it longer on the tires and having fresher tires than the majority of the field. He's right now paying the price for that even.
Yeah, and Ross Tatum, one of those drivers that came into this race, kind of forgot about it until Zach brought it back up. He is in practically a must-win scenario for the 21 machine because he's going to be missing out on next week's race. He had prior obligations, and we're going to take him out from being able to race at Richmond. But a first driver hitting pit road for the second time, it's Jason Gratton in the 8 machine as he comes into pit road. And this is going to start the trail because there's a lot of drivers over the radio saying they're now heading into pit road.
It's that time once again here, lap 88, as these drivers feel like this is the perfect time to come down, get the service done. And Kyle McCoy from the 2nd position in the 28, he brings it down the pit road after an excellent run he's had here tonight. Will the strategy be what can win this race for McCoy, and how long will Jimenez stretch it? That's going to be my question. That 48 was opening up the gap and running faster times than anybody out there behind him. I think he may stretch in a few laps here just with how much pace that 48 has in the back.
This Kyle McCoy pit stop kind of is, I'm scratching my head on it because we just saw during this run, the 24 Kyle Bowling being the first driver who went with the very early stop, and it backfired dramatically for himself. But it looks to be Kyle McCoy with that pit stop kind of might have spooked some other drivers with Scott Rickard, Juan Jimenez coming into pit road. Now Dylan Grimm, Aaron Hale going to be leading the charge as they can now push it out for a few more laps.
Not too surprised to see these second group of guys come down, and it's kind of like what you said, Sam. It spooks them into it when you see somebody like Kyle McCoy come down. You're saying, oh man, I can't let him get too big of a gap to where I have to run him back down and have maybe some of that Ross Tatum syndrome of getting stuck farther back in the pack and not be able to move your way forward on the fresher tires. So I think that's what's made these drivers want to come down this early. And Grimm here coming down the next lap by in the 17. This is going to be fun to watch, but oh man, I just watched our leader, or our past leader, Juan Jimenez, come off a pit road. Hopefully he didn't get no black flags because that right rear tire was above the blue line.
I'm watching the flag now, and he has not been given a black flag. I think Juan Jimenez is good and clear after that little bit of a scare. As see, also there was Jonathan Woods. Jonathan Woods, one of the drivers, just trying to go for a good top 15 run for himself, coming into pit road, looking at the field. Still that of our top 9 that need to come into pit road, and as well Diego Valle in the 77, who is as well kind of a head scratcher on what you're going to find each week for the 77, because the start of the season we were ranting and raving about him. Now we're confused on where he went for the 77, as you see the 40 and the 5 hitting pit road.
Busy time here on pit road for Aaron Hale and Andrew Hess as they come down to get service done. And I was just looking into it. Kyle McCoy, he did jump Jimenez there by pitting that one lap earlier, so it comes out directly in front of the 48 of Jimenez, and that should be a battle for the lead when all this cycles through. But Nate Lynch is the one I've really been watching because he is not too far ahead of Jimenez in Bowling, and they're on fresh tires. I don't know if this will be a race winning strategy for Nate Lynch if he gets to the end of this race, but it could end up maybe solidifying him a better position than what he would have ran by just going with the 2-stop.
I think the big thing we got to count was Nate Lynch was running around that of Andrew Hess of the 5. So wherever Andrew Hess finishes, that would be giving me a pretty good marker on where the 1 potentially would have been if he sticked with his traditional strategy of everyone going with the 2-stop. And main reason why Nate Lynch's strategy might not work is because everyone's not maximizing their fuel like they did before, pitting that of those early 5 to 8 laps sooner than what they did on stage that first pit cycle. That's what's closing down this rate and not allowing the 1 to have the gap maybe that he felt like he was going to have for himself for this win. It's only a 7-second gap from 5th, well now 4th back to 5th, with Juan Jimenez about to be closing in. Those 7 seconds, got to figure out how to save. this rate, you're losing too much time for the one.
You are losing too much time at this rate for sure, and we'll see what he can do. You know, he's been saving definitely fuel during this run. I wonder how much that's saved the tires for him. If he gets the green light to go all the way down to the end, I wonder if he can just, you know, pick up some pace and find something left in those tires, because right now the group that's behind him, running them down to Kyle McCoy and Jimenez, they're about a second a lap each lap faster than him. So really, you're looking at really the next 6 to 7 laps before these two get up to Nate Lynch to have a battle with him.
Trying to close in, change up where you're gonna be. And for that of Juan Jimenez, setting up what could be potentially the pass for the lead, going down low, ducking below Kyle McCoy for 5th place. The 48 has had some magical moments in the past, some great finishes at Nashville Fairgrounds for 2nd, Las Vegas when he first showed up and got a 6th place there. Atlanta got 12th, but really could have gotten even a better finish there. Just a poor finish at the end. And this 48 machine looking for his first win in Stars and Stripes. And with that pass, Kyle McCoy might have to fight right back to get the lead for himself.
Kyle McCoy definitely fighting for that lead position, because he knows if he wins this race, he has no worries heading into Richmond. And I will say the short tracks have been kind of where the 28 has struggled this season. It's been his strength is the 1.5 miles. You know, that's really where he's been excellent so far. And right here, right now, it is looking like maybe he's got to settle for 2nd here tonight and not get that win to lock him in, because that 48, he is just on a different level when it comes to this pace on the race.
Taking away the win and you're in for one of these playoff contenders, this is massive, because I think also you look at Scott Rickard, he's another one of those drivers, really, he hasn't had crystal clean short tracks. He's been quick at the short tracks, but can he find some clearance because of the fact that we've seen Josh Robinson, Thomas Ogle, those two have been truly the wizards at short tracks, with Kyle Bowling kind of being the third of that group when we've gone to the short tracks previous in this season. But 33 laps left in this race as Trey Jackson, Andrew Menlin, Nate Lynch still out on track. Well, for how long is going to be the key question, as Nate Lynch about to be ran down. He's just about 3 laps away from being caught by that of Juan Jimenez.
It's going to be a matter of time, not if or when. So we'll see when it does work out for Jimenez to get around the one machine. And well, let's see where Nate Lynch ends up, because right now, I mean, I look back to someone like Walsh Tatum and Andrew Hess. Like you said, he was around Andrew Hess really, and at the moment he would be still a good 12 to 13 seconds ahead of Hess. So if he can salvage a finish ahead of someone like the 5, then at the end of the day, it's kind of a net gain for this one. So we'll have to see. And personally, the short tracks have been somewhat of his better runs this season in the one machine at some point. So, you know, short track deficiencies for some drivers and short track, overachieving for some other drivers has really led to a interesting round 1 I think we'll have here at the end of Richmond.
And as our playoff drivers, as we clock in closer and closer to the end of this race, all the playoff drivers seem to be setting themselves up for the best finishes they could ask for here tonight. As we're looking at the field and the way they've been running, one major scare strikes on the backstretch. The 41 of Jonathan Woods has a scare for himself. At the exit of turn 2, got very loose and went down to the apron, losing a handful of positions, almost losing even more, as 41 almost bringing out the caution, which this track, Zach, has never brought out. I mean, never has had a race go completely clean and green before. Season 4, the last time they were here, was the closest one with 1 caution. And with less than coming up to 30 to go, this race certainly is not over just yet, because some drivers with their tires might be pushing a little bit too much, as Nate Lynch has already been passed by Juan Jimenez as well as Kyle McCoy. And see this great battle between the 31 and the 24.
Yeah, 31 to 24, and they're so far back here. I mean, Ogle, I'm looking, he's 20 seconds off of McCoy and Jimenez. I mean, he did pit much later than that group, but this 31 not having the greatest of a run here tonight after looking, you know, sitting on the pole, looking to continue some of that success at the end of the regular season. Just hasn't been able to do it. We'll see what he can gain back because he does have fresher tires than a lot of drivers ahead of him. But how much time will he have to catch him will be the biggest question in my book.
Certainly will be a big question, but one question that we can answer for you is that we know when our next charity event is going to be here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. We've had 2 great charity events for the past 2 seasons, last 2 years, and that of January for our first ever one last year, and then in February this year, as we're both at Daytona. Well, let's try Charlotte out. You've been watching the great action here in the ARCA cars. Well, let's ramp up the horsepower, ramp up the laps, as let's have a Gamers Outreach 600 for Freaky Fast Broadcasting. It's our second charity event of the year. June 10th is going to be the destination for that. And Zach, it certainly should be a good one for a great cause, and we cannot wait for our next charity race.
We definitely cannot wait for that, man. And we'll have more and more information being sent out all throughout the weeks on how you can sign up and get in there. But the main thing, get in our Freaky Fast community Discord. That is the easiest way to find our entry forms and all that to get you signed up and racing for that, Gamers Outreach 600 that we'll be having here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway itself. And man, it's going to be wild to see. I mean, same styles of cars as this, what we see on track, but just with that added horsepower of the Gen 4 car compared to this ARCA package. So it's going to be fun to watch, and it's going to be a blast all night to see who can conquer 400 laps for a great cause.
That Gen 4 Cup car, the extra horsepower, I know a lot of drivers excited on iRacing to run. A lot of people are talking about changing up what cars they're going to go to, and hearing a little bit of wrestling that Stars and Stripes might be next season thinking about running the Gen 4 Cup car, as they're still trying to decide where exactly their vehicles are going to go, as they've changed in every season on which vehicle they had to go to. The ARC car, because they ran out of the stock cars to go through, and go right back to the beginning for season 6. But I think that's the one of the joys of Stars and Stripes and League Racing and iRacing. You can always search and find what cars you want to run if you want to join with a series today, because there's plenty of leagues. I almost feel like they're starting up almost weekly, Zach, it feels like.
It really does. It is a budding community for sure, man. It continues to grow, and love to see the iRacing League community, more and more different leagues come into the picture. And you have so many wide variety of options like you brought up. I mean, not only can you race these stock cars, you can race the dirt side of things. You can race the road course side of things. And they even got rallycross. So, I mean, there's so many different things coming. I mean, we've got wet racing coming in the pipeline. iRacing just really in a really interesting state right now of growth, and just heading to that next era of sim racing here that we have before us on this platform.
Sim racing giving so many opportunities, as a lot of real life NASCAR teams realizing, hey, sim racing and sim drivers really have some good knowledge to give, and you can find a lot of that throughout this community. If you want to get started, remember to go purchase yourself your ButtKicker and your Next Level Racing gear, major sponsors for the Stars and Stripes throwback season that Stars and Stripes is putting on this currently. As you are watching the Next Level Racing 200 at Charlotte, the laps are ticking away, and Zach, Trey Jackson, Juan Jimenez, Trey Jackson somehow still staying out. He's just relentless on deciding to come into pit road. The 25 cannot make it to the end, but his leading time about to be coming to a conclusion.
Looks like it's quickly going to come to an end, because look at this, the 48 here to the inside, down into one. And this may be the last time this lead is changed over hands, because that 48 of Jimenez is flying, but you got to give credit there. That 28 of McCoy has not let him get away. He has stayed as close as possible, and he is making that 48 have to think here about how he has to drive to not make mistakes to keep this 3-time champion behind him.
Keep him behind, and this is one of those moments where you're trying your best, survive best, just survive, make it to the end of these races. And Trey Jackson trying an odd strategy, banking on a yellow. It never came out, as he's now being swamped by drivers trying to unlap themselves, as Aaron Hale, one of those that kind of unfortunately got caught in some situations where losing time, as he was one of the drivers battling for the lead at one moment, was the 40 back, going all the way back to those first 15 laps. And Trey Jackson looking like he's heading to pit road, and here he comes with waving the white flag that he's done.
Looks like he's given up his chances there for that caution to come out to save him, but he'll just have to try to get back on that lead lap and maybe catch himself at caution before this race ends, because like you said earlier, you know, no times have they ever went completely green here at Charlotte, so that opportunity for that yellow flag to fly is still readily available, and we could possibly see that come out at some point here. As we're checking out third place right now is Dylan Grimm here in his third position, and he's got Scott Rickard not too far behind him, but he does have fresher tires than Rickard. But the one driver out I would be worried about more than anything is the 10 machine of Joshua Robinson. He's on a mission right now, making up a ton of time on this group ahead of him.
Started in 13th here tonight, up 8 positions. That last lap, he was the fastest driver of those in our top 10. And is looking very quick is this 10 of Joshua Robinson. He's within a second and a half of Scott Rickard and Dylan Grimm. And I mean, if we see Scott Rickard get under pressure more, as he's got Diego Valle put the pressure on the 32, that is giving up time that the 10 could grab more positions for himself.
I mean, it really could. I mean, this is huge for Joshua Robinson, man, because again, we have Richmond next week, a short track, and I think that's been personally his specialty this season. He's been lights out when it comes to those short track races. And if he can go out here on Charlotte Motor Speedway and get a good top 5 finish, that should propel him to be in a very good position heading into Richmond next week. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see this 10 battling for a win at that style of racetrack.
No, I think that the 10, the 31, 2 drivers that are heavy favorites, that they can make it to the Final Four. Yeah, with it being at Bristol, anything can happen there at the Coliseum. And I know it's taking a little bit too far ahead, but there are certainly the 31, the 10. I would also say maybe Ross Tatum and even Kyle McCoy. Those are some drivers that you have a feeling that can run well enough at short tracks that they could try to steal this championship away. But that's if they can get to that destination. And tonight, looking like Juan Jimenez starting to pull away Zach from Kyle McCoy, who did his best to hold as close as he could.
He did his very best. He definitely did. I mean, he tried to stay with Jimenez, but Jimenez has just been too fast tonight. I mean, it's plain and simple that the 48 has been the best car, because, I mean, you don't have a green flag run from 20th to 1st, you know, without being the best car on race pace, and that's definitely what this 48 has been. Is he's been the class of the field, but we have seen times before where he was leading coming down to the end, and we got a yellow, and it did take the race win away from him. So we could see Jimenez in that same similar situation, because in the past we've seen this speed from him, just not able to get that full execution done to get to victory lane. Tonight may be his opportunity, though.
And if we're going to see a caution, it might come from 7th, 8th, and 9th place, because those drivers just got by Nate Lynch, and it was very much a jam-packed side-by-side racing. Trey Jackson's trying to get by Ross Tatum, and Ross Tatum also has been very quick on the times, as he had to wait as long as possible with another long strategy of trying to maximize his tires, and he's up to 6th, a little bit too far back, being almost 10 seconds off of our leader, the 21. His hopes of winning and maybe moving on to the next round might be swamped already. He's gonna need a caution to come out at this moment, but Will Bustler being heavily pressured by Andrew Hess.
Andrew Hess here trying to make that position and get himself up into the 7th. That would be a good, I would say still a good night for this 5 team, because, you know, lost positions off of where he started from, and just that long run pace that normally the 5 possesses just never showed up here tonight enough to make up the ground of positions he gave up on those shorter runs. Right now, he's got Will Bustler definitely in his sights. We'll see if he can make that pass, because Ross Tatum is starting to get away. And again, it's going to be tough for the 5 or the 6 to hold on to the 21, because 21 has much fresher tires than this group.
Much fresher and trying to pull away and gain any positions possible. And we were touching on that of the 10, Joshua Robinson trying to move up as soon as he can. Well, that of the 10 has made the pass on Scott Rickard for 4th, and aiming his sights on 3rd place. Going to be 2 seconds ahead, and with us coming up to that 11th laps to go, maybe just a little bit too far for the grasp of Joshua Robinson. to take third. But you never know with some of this pace that the 10 has just been sneakily having for himself.
It is impressive to see how he sneaked into this top 4 position, and I think, like you said, it's just you good?
A little bit of situation popping up. Technical issues always around the corner as we're back. And certainly this is all Juan Jimenez up front. Zach, for this 48 with the laps ticking away, 10 laps to go. Juan Jimenez is going for a win. I mean, with Nashville Oval, you think back to that, he certainly was putting on the pressure. Thought maybe he could sneak away with a win at that race, but these mile-and-a-half courses is where really Juan has been giving me the most surprise, especially with coming in halfway through the season, filling in. Originally we thought it was just a fill-in spot, then it was a full-time takeover of the 48 for Scalise, who stepped away. And Juan Jimenez has been looking great whenever we get to see him on track.
Oh, he's been fantastic. I mean, the short tracks have been horrendous for him, though. I will say that. He has had some struggles. I mean, I look back to 5 flags. I mean, he literally had a spin where he had to alt F4 out of the sim to get out of there quickly because he was trying not to throw a yellow just because he was struggling that much on tires. It's been no struggle here tonight at Charlotte. He has just been the class of the field when it comes to making passes and making his way through the field just that consistently. And it's possibly going to show up here to put him in victory lane if he could just hold on for these green flag laps to continue.
The laps continue to tick off. The 48 in a good spot. Drivers, though, deeper in the field that are going to be needing something better at Richmond. Diego Valle in 77 in 19th place. You also going to be seeing Christopher Wade in 13th, Kyle Bowling in 12th. It's not the worst days in the world for those drivers, but finishing in the final 4 of each, coming into this first race, don't want to be losing those crucial points because it is a slim margin, just 10-point difference from 4th down to 12th in points, where you're going to need to grab everything possible.
You will need to grab everything possible for sure, Sam. I mean, every point's going to matter, man. That is a fact that is just true when it comes down to these playoff races, and we'll see who can manage the most and get what they can out of these final 6 laps here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway and try to bring it back home to the finish, man. It's been impressive so far because, again, no time before, like you said, have they went caution-free, and it looks like we're going to make it happen.
As this would be, if we're able to stay caution-free, our 5th this season caution-free race. The other 4, Sonoma back earlier in the season, Chicagoland, Darlington, and the most previous one last week at Talladega. It has been crazy. I mean, Thursday and Saturday, Zach, they have been caution-free like crazy these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they definitely have, and I believe Saturday they're at the Roval, so they'll be caution-free in there. I mean, it doesn't really count since it's a road course, but yeah, it's been a caution-free weeks for our non-stage racing leagues, and definitely throws in a good bit of strategy for drivers such as Nate Lynch, who's still out there, I must add, in that 9th position right now, just trucking along, trying to hold on to what he can and save the fuel to get down to the end of this race. At the end of the day, it might be a net loss for Lynch because he was around Andrew Hess when he started saving that fuel, who ends up in 6th at the moment. But still, I mean, if he can get to the finish, that'll still be an impressive feat to make a one-stop happen.
That it certainly would be, and the strategies of do you go for a 1-stop or a 2-stop? That's kind of been the gamble of the racing throughout this season whenever we get mile-and-a-half tracks, and to see one of our playoff drivers at least attempt it was awesome to see. And Nate Lynch, I think this is kind of what you have to do. I think back to Larry Mack's quote, if you're not doing something different from the leader, you're just following the leader, and usually that means you're going to see them win, which we saw plenty of different strategies be thrown out here tonight. And it was the drivers that took the middle ground of pitting in that middle spot, where we find Juan Jimenez and Kyle McCoy just cruising up front as our front 2. But it's this 48 who's gapped himself now over 3 seconds over Kyle McCoy. And Zach, that the 48 magic certainly is still here at Charlotte.
It really is, man. I remember back in the day when it was called the Lowe's Motor Speedway and you had the Lowe's 48 machine dominate this place. And it seems like that's came back to fruition as he's going to come out of 4 here and see that white flag.
Juan Jimenez gets to see the freaky fast white flag as he's got the lap car of Trey Jackson in front of him and other drivers as well. But this is the 5th caution-free race that the Stars and Stripes have had this season. But Juan Jimenez scrubbing off the wall and giving us a little bit of a scare here late as he hits the backstretch. He's got to be hoping these tires are still underneath him as Aaron Hale now dives below, trying to make the pass. But it's all the 48. Juan Jimenez might have joined in the middle of the season, but it's when the playoffs start. The 48 wins. It's a non-playoff driver, but still a good one.
What a way to go out and get a victory in the playoffs when everybody's at their top tier shape and bringing their best to the racing surface. And Jimenez goes out there and wins this race and going away fashion too. 20th to the first position, 19 spots gained. That's an excellent night from that driver.
An absolute incredible night from Juan Jimenez and Kyle McCoy. Dylan Grimm, your top 3 as they came across the line. I mean, this is just solid runs all around for our playoff drivers, but for this driver in the Lowe's 48 machine, Juan Jimenez gets himself into victory lane. Took him a couple of tries. He got a 2nd place at Nashville, got a 6th at Las Vegas. And that was over a month ago. And now, after stepping away for a couple of races, he comes back in the 48, a victor in the Stars and Stripes Throwback Series. Congratulations to that of Juan Jimenez, as we are going to step aside. When we come back, we'll talk to our top 3 and the Spotlight driver right after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Stars and Stripes Throwback Series. As tonight, it was the start of the playoffs and a start of a new winner as Juan Jimenez getting his first ever win in the Stars and Stripes Series. And a big shout out to 48. What a run he got to have as we get to pull him up into the booth into victory lane. Juan, it's Sam and Zach of the booth. Congratulations. You are a Stars and Stripes Throwback Series winner. Man, how are you feeling after that performance here tonight?
Oh, I'm feeling absolutely fantastic. Well, obviously the win is great, but I'm happy that we got done that third place. It's the playoffs starting. You know, it's all about having the team on top and being competitive in that team standings in that individual people standing. So just trying to figure out how to get that GRR team on top, and happy that we were able to put that good individual effort in after a few rough weeks.
Well, I tell you, Juan, man, it was an excellent run here tonight. Like you said, a few rough weeks there with the 22nd, 21st, and 19th place finish, but you get right back to where you were at on the mile and a half. I mean, I look back to Nashville, you finished second. Las Vegas, so fast there, you finished sixth. I mean, what is it about these mile and a halves with this ARCA car that seems to be working so well for your style?
Oh, it's just I feel like I have the tire saving down at these mile and a halves, and it's a little bit less of a factor at the short tracks. I'm gonna put in a lot of time in the off season to just try to figure out these short tracks, because it's really I shouldn't be finishing 20th, 21st every week that we're at a short track. Is just kind of a wasted week, and it doesn't help the team. So I feel like the Gen 4 car maybe suits me a little bit better, but still got to put in a bunch of time in the off season to make sure that we're as competitive at short tracks as these big tracks.
Well, we still have one here. Plenty of more tracks still to go. Got four more left: Richmond, Auto Club, Kentucky, and then Bristol for the finale. How are you feeling about these next four races that are coming up and your potential chances of trying to become a two-time winner this season?
Oh well, I'm excited. Obviously, I'm still feeling the rush about winning this race. Had this awesome battle with McCoy with about 35-40 to go, which was super fun. I'm feeling good about especially the big tracks, as you know, but it's again the mentality isn't about necessarily getting me the win. It's about how to make sure that we're all maximizing our points to get that team championship and that individual championship home to GRR.
Absolutely. Well, Juan, again, congratulations on your win. Before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shoutouts.
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out first of all the broadcast. I always love watching back the races, even the ones I do not great in. And it's super professional, super just incredibly high production value, and it's incredibly fun just watching back and seeing maybe the things I missed when I was out on the track. It's incredibly fun to watch back. So shout out to Freaky Fast, and obviously gotta shout out my teammates. They've been supportive throughout this bad stretch of few races, just making sure that I'm in the right headspace, making sure that I know that they're supporting me, and it's been a blast. It's these guys who are super talented. They're always willing to give you a hand, to give you a little help with the setup, give you a few tips, and it's great being teammates with them. So incredibly lucky to be here, and just happy that we had a good team day.
It certainly was a good one. Congratulations, Juan, on this win, and good luck next week at Richmond.
Thank you, Sam.
Well, that is going to be your winner here tonight. The 48 machine of Juan Jimenez getting the victor. And now let's head to second place, where the really was the challenger trying his best, but didn't have enough at the end of the day. We got Kyle McCoy with us. Kyle, you get a second place finish. It's not the win and locked into the next round, but it's the next best. How are you feeling after a second place after tonight?
Yeah, feel pretty good. Obviously second, not great, but can't complain too much. I win enough of these things that second is a good run for a points race, especially in the playoffs like we're in. So big run. Glad to survive that kind of first scary run. I was lucky to get up to where I did after that all happened, and so yeah, pretty happy with that. Juan was in another zip code, so I was not catching him. So I'm very happy with second.
Well, Kyle, it was a great effort here tonight, man, to get your second place finish, especially coming here second in the points and looking pretty good in those heading into Richmond next week. But man, I mean, take us through the strategy because it seemed pretty straightforward, but we had a lot of guys trying different things all over the place.
Yeah, there were some one stoppers out there. Kind of had too much tire fall off to pull it off, but I know like my teammate Nate, he was just kind of, I mean, in a position where he wasn't gonna lose any more than where he was running at the end of that first stop. So he just stayed out and made a one stopper, and I think finished probably better than where he was gonna end up. So I mean, yeah, the strategy was interesting. I don't, yeah, like I don't think the one stopper was a winning strategy, but it was certainly was a spot gaining strategy if you got yourself kind of out of the mess and had the good long run pace. So that was kind of, I would say a lot of people didn't have that long run pace to pull it off. Right front really went away quick, especially on mine. I can't tell if I think I was overdriving entry maybe a little bit. That kind of bit me, especially in the second and third runs. But yeah, the strategy was interesting. Two stoppers kind of the way to go there, and I didn't really think of doing anything different. But I mean, it was interesting kind of with the different speeds out there.
Look, Kyle, after tonight's performance, you got a good chunk of the points to kind of give you a bigger buffer going into next week. How are you feeling about Richmond overall heading into that race and trying to set yourself up for the round of 8?
Oh, I feel really good after the points we gained tonight. I do not like Richmond. I knew I had to get every point I could before we went there because who knows what the heck can happen. I could be wrecked in the fence on lap 4 there at that place, given my luck in the past there. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited. I always like to come to those short tracks and try to improve a little bit. That's kind of my weak link, and we'll see how we run. But I'm not gonna put myself in a spot where I can take myself out of it next week. And that's kind of had to say the same thing when I was racing Juan tonight. He just had a little too much speed, and I didn't really want to put myself in too much of a compromising spot without trying to hang on to that lead. And I kept having flashbacks of Jimmy Johnson at the Roval and just thinking I didn't want to do that to myself. So I think that's going to be my strategy next week. Stay out of trouble. See if we can advance to the next round, and we got some good tracks waiting for us there.
Well, Kyle, before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shoutouts.
Thank you. Thanks to Nate and George. Fantastic teammates this year. Thanks to you guys for putting on a broadcast. I'm excited to go watch that one and see what I was doing wrong. And shout out to the league for putting on, I think, another caution-free race. Yeah. Shout out to the league. Fun stuff. Looking forward to next week, even if it's not my greatest racetrack, and we'll see how we do.
Well, that is going to be your second place finisher in the 28 machine of Kyle McCoy. Congratulations on second, Kyle, and good luck at Richmond next week.
Thanks, guys.
As we go from second place, let's head to third, where we find that of Dylan Grimm in the 17 machine. Dylan, it's Sam and Zach up at the booth. Congratulations, coming away with third place finish after qualifying 12th. That seems like a pretty solid day setting up for Richmond next week.
Yeah, I'm super happy with that. Came from about mid-pack, qualifying. Was -3, I think, coming into this thing, so for the playoffs, so a third place will definitely help out my case for making the next round.
Well, Dylan, you were able to make a ton of passes here tonight to get yourself up to that third position. How did you actually end up making those passes? Because we've seen some guys could catch people, but they just couldn't ever get the pass done.
Yeah, it was pretty difficult. It was really difficult tonight to pass around the bottom. But I just tried to really back up my corners and then get a good run off and try to get to their outside so then I could pass them around the outside, and that generally worked pretty well for me, and is what I used for most of the night.
Well, it certainly did work out well for yourself, coming away with the third place finish. We saw plenty of different strategies with drivers coming into pit road and not into pit road. Was there any thoughts? Did you stick to your game plan, and if you didn't, what were those change ups that you made throughout the race?
Yeah, me and my spotter were talking in practice whether we should do one stop or two stop because we knew it'd be fairly close on fuel, and I know some guys I think tried to just do one. But ultimately, we just followed a bunch of the leaders and the guys that we are around, which worked out pretty well for us.
That it certainly did. Well, Dylan, before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shoutouts.
Yeah, I want to shout out Nate and everyone who puts on this great league. You guys in the broadcast booth doing a great job every week. My papa for spotting for me every week as well, and anyone else watching out there cheering me on.
That is going to be the 17 machine of Dylan Grimm. Congratulations on third, and good luck at Richmond next week on trying to make the round of 8.
Yep, thank you guys.
Well, as we go from third place or spotlight driver, it's actually going to be fourth place runner Joshua Robinson, who was flying at the end of this race. Josh, it's Sam and Zach of the booth. You got us?
Sam, Zach, how you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I mean, you come away with the fourth place finish, qualified in 13th. Not a bad day for yourself, but man, you were flying there at the end. How are you feeling after this type of performance here tonight?
Feeling pretty good. You know, the start of that race was not my best qualifying effort because I did not get my forgot how to tell time to get my second lap in, and then the start of the run for the first segment there, I was just pretty calm, and I probably could have been a bit more aggressive, but it paid dividends at the end of that run. Started knocking off some good lap times, and then things went well in the pit stops, and that ended up in a good day.
That it did. It worked out to be a good day for you, Josh. And, you head into a style of a racetrack, in my opinion, that definitely suits you. I mean, it seems like the short tracks have been the place that you've performed, in my opinion, somewhat the best this season. I mean, you look back to your win at Five Flags, but heading to Richmond next week with this big performance here at Charlotte, this has got to be a big confidence boost.
Absolutely. That was a race I had circled on the playoff schedule was Richmond, so definitely looking forward to that one.
And Josh, I mean, heading into that Richmond race, is there anything that you are concerned about with the way that the points have been lined up? You're going to be in the middle of these points, get a little bit of a buffer with some of the drivers and how they performed tonight, but is there any worries heading into next week?
You know, it's a short track. Things can go from bad to worse in a hurry. So just want to make sure make some smart moves. Don't put myself into bad situations. Don't put other drivers into bad situations, and just make sure that I'm thinking for the future and trying to move on to round 2 and not trying to sometimes coming home with the top 5 is better than a win in the long run.
That it certainly can be in playoff times. Well, Josh, before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shoutouts.
Thank you. Thanks to you guys for the broadcast. You guys do a great job. Thanks to the Lynches and Derek for putting on this league, and then shout out to the whole league tonight. We had caution-free, pretty racy, and quite a bit of the race. There was a lot of side-by-side, a couple 3-wides, so just shout out to the whole league because it was good, clean racing throughout the pack.
It certainly was. It was fun racing to watch, Josh, and congratulations again on a fourth place finish, and good luck next week at Richmond.
Appreciate it, guys. Hopefully see you next week.
Well, that's going to be your spotlight driver of Joshua Robinson coming away with fourth place finish as we get ourselves set up to look at the unofficial results here tonight. I mean, Zach, 5th caution-free race of the season. Stars and Stripes do it again.
They once again do it again, Sam, and it's been impressive to see. I mean, at some tough tracks. Charlotte here tonight's on the track side of that. I feel like maybe possibly lends itself to going green like this, and they pulled it off, and it was so impressive to see. I really thoroughly enjoyed it with Jimenez getting that win.
Jimenez coming away with his first ever win in the Stars and Stripes Throwback Series, and what a win it could be at the start of the playoffs, taking away that automatic clinch for Kyle McCoy and anyone else that was in the playoffs. And then Kyle coming in second, Dylan Grimm third, fourth goes to Joshua Robinson. Thank you to our top 4 for joining us in for interviews. Scott Rickard 5th, 6th goes to Andrew Hess, Will Bustler 7th, 8th goes to Ross Tatum, Jason Grattan coming away at 9th, and 10th, the driver that was the only one that did a 1-stop, goes to Nate Lynch.
He made it. He definitely made it to the end. That's a great job by him making a one-stop happen. And it does seem like that actually gained him something because he was around the 13th spot before that. But Thomas Ogle there in 11th, you got to feel for him. Hit Kyle Bowling in 12th. Strategies didn't play well for those two playoff drivers. And Christopher Wade kind of fell back there as the race trended farther into it. So tough nights for them. And also Diego Valle, just an off night for the 77 crew. So some playoff drivers with some big holes to climb out of heading into Richmond.
At Richmond, just like how it can be here at Charlotte, you heard the drivers. No one was 100% in the I can make it to the next round. It felt like Kyle McCoy and that of Scott Rickard might be in the best positions with the bonus points that they had coming into this round. But who could move on after next week's short track bonanza that could bring out some big wrecks? Or we could have the same race we just had here tonight, caution free. You never know here for the Stars and Stripes. But before we get too ahead of ourselves into next week, remember here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we got plenty of other coverage of other leagues throughout the week. We have 5 out of the 7 days with coverage. With Saturday night, WSSR going to be here at Charlotte, but it's for the Roval Road Course Racing on Saturday. Then on Monday, it's ISRC Truck Series. Tuesday, Full Send Racing Series with their Truck Series action. Wednesday's the Wicked Racing League of the Next Gens. Right back here Thursday night, Stars and Stripes. Who moves on to the round of 8? Well, next week will tell us that story. And Zach, any final thoughts before we get ourselves out of here?
Well, excellent race here tonight. Lots of strategy involved with it, with a clean and green race here. First off, too, congrats to Juan Jimenez. That's excellent to see, always a first-time winner, and one that definitely had it coming from earlier in the season. So good to see him get that job done. But I'm excited to head to Richmond, see how that short track plays out, because anytime you cut it down from 12 to 8 drivers, it just gets that much harder to, the competition level does. So it's going to be fun to watch, and Richmond, I think, is going to be a blast.
Short track, short tempers, or could they stay stable? Will the short track ringers show up? You have the show come out and see next week here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting for the Stars and Stripes Throwback Series. Thank you so much for joining with us on your Thursday evening. For myself, Sam Dyer, Zach Hall, Robert Moyer Jr., and everyone else here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you for joining with us, and we will see you Saturday night for our next Freaky Fast broadcast.